aftershocks have been coming in thick and fast, sometimes up to 5 or 6 an hour. We were in a building this afternoon on the 34th floor when one of those aftershocks took place. And for somebody like myself who's not used to being in an earthquake zone area, it was quite disconcerting. The building swaying slowly and gently for at least 2 minutes. And the big fear here, of course, is that these aftershocks may not so much be aftershocks, but maybe a precursor. Tokyo itself is built on a fault line, and the authorities here have been warning for years that a big earthquake is just around the corner, and that is one of the big fears here when some of those aftershocks take place. Leland?
And how are you gauging the mood of the people? Are they accepting and viewing the situation with Japanese stoicism?
Well, I'd like to say yes, and in some part that's true, but the fears here are really quite heightened. Our Japanese producer has been receiving anonymous texts sort of telling people the big one's coming, so that is making people fear a little bit. And there's been a run on the shops. Some of the food shops are running a bit low, people looking for water. They're also anticipating rolling power cuts. There may be power cuts here tomorrow in order to conserve energy. The mood is also being affected because people can't get in touch with their relatives up north. People have many friends and relatives up there, and they are desperate to find out what has happened to them, but there is still major communication problems. So that is adding to the heightened mood here. But the biggest fear amongst everybody here is the nuclear crisis that this country is currently grappling with.
Brian, thanks for the time being. We'll return to Brian in a moment, but first, there's also growing international concern that the nuclear threat is escalating. Japan's government has admitted radioactive meltdowns may have occurred in 2 reactors after an explosion in a reactor building. The explosion was caused after a build-up of steam and gas in a containment building at the Fukushima 1 plant. Officials have ordered the evacuation of 170,000 people who live nearby, expanding the danger area to a 20-kilometer radius.
It's the worst nuclear emergency in Japanese history. 4 workers were injured when the blast occurred at the Fukushima 1 plant, releasing what government officials insist was a small amount of radiation.
This explosion is not related to the reactor container. Therefore, there is no possibility that radioactivity will be leaked in a substantial manner.
More than 200,000 people have fled the area. Medical checkpoints set up to determine if anyone had been exposed to radiation have so far uncovered 9 positive cases.
10キロが20キロになってたら多分また伸びてくるのかなっていうのはあるので、はいですね。それはもう覚悟して今、はい、どっちにしろここから動けないので。
This is the containment building before and after the explosion. Inside is a protective vessel which contains nuclear fuel rods. To keep them from overheating, water is pumped in. But with both its primary and backup pumps knocked out, there was a build-up of steam and gas. To relieve the vessel's pressure, officials released hydrogen gas. That reacted with the air's oxygen, causing the explosion.
The vessel itself, which contains the superhot uranium, thank God that was intact. If that had ruptured, you're talking about an accident beyond comprehension.
But late this afternoon, the Japanese government admitted 2 possible meltdowns, one in the same containment building that exploded and one in another reactor at the same facility. The most extreme case is that the nuclear rods remain exposed, causing them to melt straight through the protective vessel. That would release radiation into the air, which could travel as far as 80 kilometres away, and exposure to those particles can increase the chances of developing certain cancers dramatically. The Japanese government is facing widespread criticism over its slow response to the emergency, and the United States says several offers of help have gone unanswered. Here, the government says it's still waiting for a safety briefing.
We and the rest of the international community need urgent briefings on the precise status of these reactors, and we are seeking further corroboration of the technical and safety impacts of this from the Japanese government.
Regardless of the outcome, the Fukushima crisis may have seriously damaged any long-term case for nuclear power, but the immediate focus is squarely on how to prevent one of its worst-case scenarios from becoming a reality. Manny Tsigas, World News Australia.